Hello, friends, and welcome to Escaping the Mouse with your host, me, Breck Roll. All right, it's raining here today in Waco. Not really hard, but just enough to keep everything wet. So that's good. Those palm trees and all that are going to really enjoy that. But since it's kind of a not an outdoor day today, today's going to be an indoor day. I got a couple projects I want to work on, things I need to do some repairs on, including that drawer that came apart in my hand the other day. So let's do that, okay? Here we go. So this is my toolbox. Basically holds all of my small hand tools. I've had it for probably about 10 years or so. It's gotten a lot of use, but when I was pulling it off of the pod the other day and wheeling it across the parking lot, I had a little bit of a problem with one of the wheels, and the whole thing tipped over. I don't think it's a serious problem. I think probably just hitting some of the speed bumps out in the parking lot resulted in shearing off a couple of the bolts in there. So I think I just got to get under there and get some new bolts and put them in there. Unfortunately, to do that, that means I have to empty the tool chest because I got to put this thing on its side, and this thing is so massively heavy with all the tools in it that there's just no other way to do that. So let's get the tools unloaded. All right, so upon closer examination, this isn't a problem where I sheared a couple of screws off. It looks like a couple of the screws were never even included. So what ended up happening is the bottom of this wheel was only attached here and here, like that. And what happened is I obviously hit a bump on this side and it just bent the wheel back like that. So solution is it should be easier actually, because if I sheared the screws off, first thing I was gonna have to do is drill out these holes. So that isn't gonna be an issue. All I gotta do is find a replacement screw that looks like that. And I'm sure Home Depot can do that. I only got 2 of them, there should be 4 of them in there. And on closer examination, this one seems to be missing one too. So I think we'll just deal with all 3 of those screws at Home Depot, and that should be pretty easy. Yeah, so this was the wheel that happened, and what ended up happening is when it hit the bump, this part of the bracket just kind of bent like that and just folded the wheel over real nice. It was a mess too, because at that point the thing was so off balance that it fell on its side, and I literally had to remove tools from the tool chest just to get it back upright again. So this should fix it once and for all. Easy fix. So I didn't really expect that Home Depot would have the exact screw I need, but I found something I think that's going to be close. Yeah, okay, fine, they're galvanized rather than black anodized, and they're a little bit longer, but I found that I had about 2 inches of clearance under there, so I think those are going to work perfect. Let's see. All right, so that worked. The new screws fit in there really well. Got them both in there, got them nice and tight. Turns out, I think maybe part of the problem that I ran into is over the years, those screws have walked out, because while I did remove these 2 screws in order to pull the wheel off, when I looked at these here, these were also loose. So I think I just had to go in and kind of tighten them all up. I still think that I was missing a couple screws on these, but that shouldn't be a problem anymore. But wouldn't be a bad idea to go in and tighten them all just for fun. All right, it's back together, filled up with tools, and it rolls well. On to the next project. So the first thing I decided to do was just kind of take everything apart on this. I took the faceplate off the front, and it's clear why it never worked real well. There's 2 staples and 2 staples alone that are holding everything together on this side, and this one didn't even make it into the wood very well. It's popping out the back. This one, apparently they just did a staple where they went in this way to hold it together. It's no wonder this didn't stay together very well. It's barely held together at all. You know, at least this one looks like there's 3 or 4 staples on the side that look like they went in all the way, but even there they didn't get them flush. You know, that there shouldn't be a gap there. That's just, sorry, that's not how it's done. And then when they put the rails on, it looks like they bought longer rails and then cut them. So they cut them too short. That was pretty stupid too. And they split the wood when they ended up connecting them. So, you know, when they put the when they drilled it in, you know, they split the wood. You know, what you normally would do on something like that is you drill it, because this stuff is soft and it will, you put a screw in there and that screw will spread the wood enough that it'll split, just like it did. So, I don't know, let's start figure out what we're going to do about this. So first thing I think I want to do is pop those nails out of there, because they're not going to do any good. They're just going to get in the way. But look at the nice cut job they did on that. That apparently was at one point a longer cabinet, and they fixed it just by cutting the front off of it. And you know, normally you'd use a table saw or a miter saw or something like that. Looks like they did that by hand and did just a fantastic job, didn't they? Yeah, so sometimes it just makes more sense to take the whole thing apart and go back to scratch. Now we'll be able to make it look better. I mean, ideally, you know, I have a compressed an air compressor and a nail gun that would put stuff in there, and that would be the right tool. But unfortunately, that's in the pod, so I can do this with a hammer and nails. This will work, and it'll be much better because I'm going to glue it as well as nail it. So let's just strip it right back to the wood, and we'll be better off in the long run. All right, so I got it all framed up, glued together right now. I haven't nailed it yet. I want to get the glue set first, but we got the clamps in there to hold everything nice and tight. And I just put the bottom of the drawer right now is just sliding in and out, just because I want it to help, you know, keep everything square. So I don't have it pushed all the way in because I'm not ready to have it glued into place yet. But once we get to that point, then that'll get glued into place. We'll drive some nails into the corners, and I think this will be okay. All right, so it's been about an hour right now, and the joints on the ends are holding pretty well. You still don't want to give a lot of force on it because it will break very easy, because we haven't given it a chance to really strengthen up yet. We haven't put any nails into it, and we haven't put the bottom into it, which will add a lot of strength, and that's actually what we're going to do now. So the first thing you'll see is you get these nice little grooves that they've cut that go all the way in. That's for the drawer. So what I want to do is I want to put a little bit of glue in all of this. Now I'm not going to go all the way down here. I'm going to glue to about here, all the way to the top, and here all the way to the top, and then I'll fill in all the way up. Then I'll fill in all the way across the bottom here. And the reason you do that is because the second you start putting the drawer in there, putting the bottom in there, it's going to start pushing the glue down the channel here as the bottom slides in. And if you have glue all the way down to the bottom, and you end up with a big mess because all the glue comes out at the bottom. So if you go halfway down or so, then as the bottom of the drawer goes in, it'll pull the glue down. Now I'm going to completely fill in. I mean, not fill in, but you know, give a nice coat all the way along the bottom, because that's gonna just, you know, you'll just push the bottom into that, and that'll hold real tight. And once that all dries, then this thing is gonna be really strong. And then we'll add some nails to the side, which will make it even stronger. And you know, well, that's what we're gonna do. All right, so we've got glue going all along the side here. It's actually kind of running down the grooves, so that's kind of cool. And I have it in the bottom, so now I just got to slide that piece in. All right, so got the bottom in there and glued. Got some clamps on just to kind of hold everything together. Right now, if you have like any glue that's seeped into the gaps right there, like you see right there, that can be really easily cleaned up with like a Q-tip. You want to do it now while the glue is wet though, because it will be a lot harder to get it off later. And there may be glue squirting through a little bit on the back too. This isn't so much important because nobody's going to see this, and if it sticks out a little bit, you know what, it actually kind of makes it a little stronger when it does that. So we'll give that like another hour or so to dry, and then we'll put the front on. Alright, so I did also something else here. I remember when I showed you, when I took the rails off for the drawers, that I showed you how the wood was split in there because they'd done a horrible job on that. Well, part of the reason that happened is because these drawers, most drawers when they make them, they aren't made out of the finest quality wood. They're usually made out of a processed material called MDF. Now they try and fool you by making it look like, oh yeah, this is real fine wood, but That's just printed on there. You actually dig under the surface, it's more like that. In reality, it's a lot like paper, and it's, you know, layers of paper that have been sealed together. So sometimes when you get a split like there was on the wood here, a way you can do it is you can fill it up with glue and then kind of clamp it shut, and it'll kind of glue the pieces back together. It's overkill in this case, but since I'm going to have to drill new holes into this for the sliders anyway, I'm going to want to do that. I don't know, probably not exactly the way most people would do that, but you know what? It's me, so it's going to be better than it was. Now, like I said before, normally what I would do is use my compressed air nailer and drive that in properly. But I don't really have that right now, so I'm just kind of making do with some nails. I pre-drilled them though, so that I didn't end up splitting the wood the way they had before. And that, between the glue and the nails, that should be strong enough to hold up for a while. At least do better than what was there. So after examining the front of this thing, I decided it made more sense to attach this piece before I attach the faceplate that goes in front. This piece. They were both attached together, but I decided it made more sense to do this because it's clear that what they shortened this piece, the length of this drawer, in order to make it fit into this slot, and they didn't give a real flat surface here. So in the middle here, this like sticks up a 1/16 of an inch, and so what you're gonna do if you put anything on it, it's gonna like rock like this. So I think we'll glue it and nail it closed first, then we'll try and smooth it off, maybe with a file or something, because both of these aren't exactly perfectly flush there, and that needs to be flush if that drawer is going to ever hold on right. Oh, and I got a package in the mail from Orlando at Merch 5 today. Love the t-shirt. Thanks, buddy. Was talking to Jordan a little bit last night, and he was saying that I probably need to go to Orlando and get Orlando to make me some t-shirts. So he had some good ideas on things to try. So I think we'll try that at some point. You might see some Escaping the Mouse merch out there. Yeah, whatever, we'll see. So I just looked at the time, and it's become clear that there's not going to be enough time to finish this up and get this video edited and uploaded in time today. So what I'm going to do instead is we're going to turn this into a two-parter. You'll have to tune in tomorrow to see how the drawer comes out. But as usual, thank you for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow on Escaping the Mouse. Good night.